Hello, and welcome to 6 Degrees from Cannabis. I'm your host, Tori Rerick, PharmD and holistic healer. Each episode features a candid conversation about how connecting with the cannabis plant has enhanced an individual's wellness journey. Here to honor the plant, talk about healing, and have fun. This episode features dynamic mama duo Gabby and Shana'e of Moms Who Cannabis. They discuss how cannabis plants them in power, their experience growing up with cannabis in the home versus how they talk to their children about it, and their take on pregnant and postpartum consumption. Keep listening for a conversation centered around the mental health and spiritual growth journeys that cannabis guides. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Meet Shana'e and Gabby of Moms Who Cannabis. They are two canna conscious cousins with a passion for the plant, community, and women empowerment. They have an Instagram community, own a clothing line, and most importantly, host a podcast where they use their voice to destigmatize the plant and connect with one another and other canna moms. They discuss all things from daily life, motherhood, self-care, high vibe items, and cannabis news. Their goal is to use their platform to reach and help other women come out of the canna closet and normalize plant medicine. Welcome, women.
Thank you. We are so happy to be here.
Yes, thank you for having us. We're excited.
So fun. Okay, this is an Earth sign podcast. Everyone, can we state our birthdays and our signs?
Let's do it.
I'm January 14th and I'm a Capricorn.
I'm Gabby, September 18th, and I'm a Virgo.
Yo, hello. And
hello.
We have another Capricorn in the house. So, we're going to be holding it down today. Right. You can just ease into this podcast and know that you'll be held and supported.
Yes, just vibe.
Exactly. So the very first thing I like to do with guests, which is just like so natural for how we've all been connected, is pull a card from the Follow Your Heart Oracle deck, a highly inspired Oracle deck. And the card that's coming up for us tonight that I would love to get your two women's experience with, how cannabis has supported you in this, is so perfect for us. Duh. It's the Planted in Power card. How has cannabis helped you plant in your power?
Ooh, I'm loving this card. Okay, so I'll start first. I definitely feel planted in my power after using, consciously consuming cannabis, because it really opened up so many different realms for me, if you will. I mean, when I'm doing either like my spiritual practice or if I'm just being a mom in a present moment, cannabis has really helped me get closer and more true to myself. And that in itself is so powerful. Mm-hmm. I feel so much more confident. Mm-hmm. I feel so in awareness and planted in my power because of cannabis. And I'm so thankful for this plant, and I'm ready to just do so much more for it. So I'm excited to get into it more. So that's my take.
I agree with Shana'e. And honestly, I've always used marijuana and cannabis as a recreational before I grew up with it. I had to grow with it. And as I got older, I started realizing I'm using this plant as an antidepressant, like a medication, but I never was really seeing it like that because I was always kind of abusing it. So now that I switched my whole perspective on it, which was one of the questions we had, right? So it just ties in with that. Like now I'm using it in a whole different like that. Okay, now I'm like, oh, I'm ready to get high, go to sleep, and dream and have some good ass dreams tonight and see what's popping in the dream world and things like that. So I use it in a very fun way still, but
play is power too,
Right.
That's
so true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get into it then. I'd love to hear about, you've mentioned before you both grew up with cannabis. So that's a different take than many of my guests have had. So what was your original perception of cannabis, and has it shifted?
starting from like the home life, it was very normal for me. I had a grandmother who smoked weed. I had a stepfather who smoked weed. So I had it in the home. So I feel like I never knew it to be bad until I, stepped into the school system. And then during elementary school, we have our DARE program that we've talked about before. And many others mentioned this same thing. Really changed our perspective. Now we're over here thinking our parents, my grandma especially, I'm like, oh my God, she's doing something so bad. Yeah. And it really was just like, okay, that was just something that we learned in this indoctrinated system, unfortunately. So that was pretty much my take. And then it wasn't until high school that I started trying, marijuana here and there at parties, this and that. And I always took a liking to it. Maybe because I did grow up around it. The smell never bothered me. I was very much intrigued by it ever since I was younger. But that's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. So can I just ask a follow-up to that, Shana'e, before Gabby shares, is like, how was it framed in the household? Was it just something not talked about, like just so totally normal? Or was it like, this is medicine?
It was not medicine. I feel like that's the only difference that I have, could have changed my perspective, is that if they were more like, this is a medicinal plant, like it was not talked about. It was just like recreational. This is what grownups do. That's it.
Me, I seen it, but at school they were like, don't smoke weed. It's very bad. You will become a drug addict. And then I go home and I'm like, oh, my mom's a drug addict, because they're in there smoking weed. And I knew it. I knew what it smelled like. I was around it. But it was so like taboo in a sense where my mom was smoking it. But then she was like, oh, hold on. Don't come in here. So then I'm like, they really are doing drugs in there. So my perspective has always been like bad drug until I got older. And then I smoked it in high school and I was like, ooh, feel good drug. And then, but I was a closet smoker in high school because we weren't supposed to smoke weed. And so then it went from feel good drug to like paranoid high. I'm only feeling good when I'm hiding it from my parents at parties and stuff. And then, like I said, I grew with it. So as an adult now, I'm just like more open about it. Like, I smoke in front of my kids. My kids know that I smoke. I'm not doing nothing wrong. They're not sitting there inhaling it or anything. That's the thing, is like my kids see me rolling up and stuff sometimes, because now my daughter is old enough to come in there and be like, oh, Mom, can I get a water? And I'll be like in the middle of doing something, but she comes to my room. Like, it's not like I'm here like, hey, Ayana, come and sit here and watch me roll this. But if she pops in on me doing it, mind your business, ask what you came to ask, really keeping it as I'm the parent and this is what I'm going to do as a parent. As a child, you're still going to do that. So that's what I didn't have growing up. They kept it like, don't, hidden from me. But then when I get curious about it, then you want to discipline me on what she was doing. Doesn't make sense. It's a contradiction that people are conditioned to live by, because they want to do it, but as adults, but they tell the kids, don't do it. It's bad. So then it's like, well, then you're bad,
Yeah. So, what are the conversations? This is like, I don't know. I've obviously had moms on, but I don't know that we've had this conversation of what does that sound like with your kids?
So she was helping me grow a little plant at one time, and I call it a flower. I don't even call it weed or cannabis. I just say this is my favorite flower. She sees my Mom's Who Cannabis shirts. She recognizes it very much, to where we'll go to some store that happens to have a weed plant logo or something, and she'll be like, ooh, like Mom's Who Cannabis. And I'll be like, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I make it just very normalized so that when she does grow up, it's not like a taboo to her, because I'm not making it a taboo like my parents made it a taboo to me. So now I'm just walking more so empowered with the plant. Exactly.
Yes. I was like waiting to say
you're like, come on, Tanner, say the word.
In your power.
Yeah, so
cool. What about you, Shana'e?
Yeah, definitely. I just feel like growing up and being an adult, like I wish our parents knew that it's more to cannabis than, getting high. And we didn't have that opportunity to teach our children.
Right.
Because that wasn't something that we do have the opportunity. They didn't give us that chance to, really learn from them, because I feel like they were slightly uneducated themselves.
Yeah, because their parents, but the thing is like, my parent was, my mom is a young mom. I'm 30 and my mom is barely going to be turning 50. So we have a 16-year apart difference. Ooh. And so her mom has a 16-year apart difference. So when we started coming out for her mom, it was like already the taboo was there. You see what I'm saying? Because her mom was 15 when weed was like, the hippies started being more out there, but it started looking bad. And so they started saying hippies were bad. So that's when my grandma was growing up. And then her mom grew up in a whole different country where they don't do nothing but get up and go to work and try to feed their kids. You see what I'm saying? And so it was never really there until my mom got a hold of it. Well, obviously, you know, because she had me around it, but she was a young mom and didn't know no better. So the thing is that then we come around and we just feel a little different. We're way different because the times have changed when we grew up. So the thing is now we're breaking the cycle, because my mom used to be like, oh, I wish you're the one to break the cycle. And everybody was waiting on my 17th birthday to see, is Gabby going to be pregnant this year or not? Because this is the cycle that her mom went through, that the grandma went through, that the grandma went through. You know what I'm saying? So it like goes deep into it. And I came out and didn't have my first daughter because everyone had their daughters first in my family, but always been single mothers in my family. But the firstborn is always a girl. And so my firstborn was a girl. I was a single mother, but I was 24. So I already did something different there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's for a whole nother topic, right? That spirituality gets rooted deep and it's something that, you know, it's just a taboo, and weed plays a part in that too, because it's a part of this world, and this whole world is just full of cycles that.
Yeah, I think that that's something we should definitely touch on, is the spirituality aspect that your community brings, because canna moms, you know, there's all different flavors of canna moms, which is
right.
But I love that you all bring the spirituality. And just to close out that point, I wanted to share my experience with Rex so far. Is he definitely knows that cannabis is an herb, cannabis is a plant, and that's all there is to it, right? I have had conversations with Jessica of Moon Mother Hunt, because that's where he has first experienced it on their fields, and I'm working at their store. And she's an herbalist herself. So it's like we're teaching our kids about the power of plants. Okay, planted empowerment, but all consuming, and then just highlighting that cannabis is one with like very great medicinal qualities. So
Right.
Why can we do, like, if they said, sprinkle a little dandelion in your joint with some lavender. Okay, I did that, but with THC, you're upset because that makes me a little bit more extra happier. You know, it kicks me up a little bit more. It don't do nothing wrong, but just gets me. It's like putting oil to the car. You need it sometimes. You need a little more.
Because it's like, especially on the quote unquote recreational side of things, it's like, why are you mad about people feeling good? You know what I mean? We're not right. So let me know, how does the plant serve you? You've touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to hear each of your experiences on that.
Okay, well, I can go first on this one. I feel that it serves me in many, many more ways than one, because like I said, I was using it recreational prior to understanding all of its medicinal purposes and properties. Then I realized, hold up, Gabby, because I just recently went through, you know, a little journey in my life where I kind of freed myself from myself. And now I'm like the happiest I've ever been. And you know, it takes one to know one, right? So I was just so happy. And then I finally was just looking back on my life like, Gabby, do you not realize that you've been using cannabis? Because I was just thinking about moms who cannabis. And I was like, do you not realize that you've been using cannabis this whole time as an antidepressant and you didn't even know it? So that, I just looked at it so different. And I was like, it's not just that it's been serving me to feel more confident and feel good, because when I was high, I was like, can't nobody tell me nothing. You know, I was just like, just in such a good mood. But when that high came down, I was like, overthinking again, back in my little zone. And so I realized that this whole time it's been serving me as a medication that I didn't have to go to go see a therapist to say, okay, now you need this pill and take it, but be careful when you take it at this time of night. Or, you know what I'm saying? So
I relate to that so much. And I think just, the mental health of it all. I see some of my friends who have come here as Colorado refugees for very obvious, intangible pains, right? And so I'm like, okay, they have this broken back or they've been in this accident, and it just makes so much more sense. And then you get to the mental health of it all, this invisible health, and it just went out the window for me. But even this postpartum period in my life, I'm like, whoa, this is holding me. Like, this is my medicine. And to have that realization, it's really potent.
Yes.
Serious. Yeah. And even when I was pregnant, it helped as a medication that would give me an appetite. And consuming cannabis during my pregnancy helped me eat 3 meals a day, because I was not even eating but one. And people are like, how? I was basically kind of malnourished, but didn't look like it, because I have always been like kind of, a more on the heavier side kind of girl. I've never been petite, so I can hold it like well without somebody looking at me like, "Ooh, you need to eat," So it definitely helped me to just eat, get the munchies, and it works in many ways. And I'm like, shoot, if it works for you that way, be my guest.
What about you, Shana'e?
I agree with Gabby. Definitely serves more ways than one. But I did grow respect for the plant a lot more and grew in consciousness with it when I stopped drinking alcohol. So I definitely have been sober for over a year, almost a year and a half now. And that cannabis definitely helped me transition from that.
Because you two are in California, and so that's like a quote unquote Cali sober situation. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So when that happened, I just stopped drinking, everything like that. I just definitely had just more respect for the plant, because it wasn't always easy. I'm not going to sit here and say there wasn't days that I didn't want to grab a bottle of wine and things like that. But I really was able to hold myself accountable. And when I was, consuming cannabis, it made it that much easier, because it helps me connect also with my, higher self. It plays into my spiritual journey. So it heavily serves me. Yeah. And I'm just so thankful, because cannabis, always smoking was something that was a little bit more common, I can say, growing up, but also it was something that I wasn't consciously doing. So sometimes I would smoke so much that I would not be
high no more.
Either that, or I would get too high. And so I wasn't conscious, so cannabis, definitely helped me see other ways to consume. I guess you can say that's what I'm getting at. And yeah, just be more in awareness with the world, more in awareness with self, heightens my senses and helps me be a more present, creative, and fun mom. That's, another thing, tying it into motherhood, it's just helped us so much. I did use, cannabis postpartum after my first daughter 10 years ago. So for me, that is something that I was ashamed of back then.
Yeah. Definitely.
But now being able to be here, open up about it, have a community. We always talk about that. We didn't have anybody really, we were in the closet ourselves.
I have people reaching out in the DMs. Nothing's really ever public, because it is still this taboo topic, but they see me as a mom. They want to know exactly how I'm using it, if, when, and why, where, how, during pregnancy, breastfeeding, and beyond. The moms need to know. So, okay, let's get into that, because the next question is, how do you serve the plant? You're obviously quite involved. And so how do you serve, and why mamas?
I serve the plant by being its lawyer in the court when judged by 12, LOL, literally, because I promote the plant, I defend the plant, and I learn the plant so I could teach the plant, because I'm teaching it to my niños. So I definitely feel like a lawyer sometimes, where I'm like, well, I use cannabis and it's okay because my baby is fine. So what evidence you got for me? Because I got all the evidence jam-packed. So I'm ready to talk about it and be in my truth more about it than ever. And I feel like that's the best way you could serve your planta.
Yes.
You know, like we have plants all around us, and people have plants that bring them good luck. Some people have plants that serve other purposes other than just growing and looking beautiful. I mean, and if you don't promote your plant, how do you expect it to promote itself? You know, if you're not kind of cheering it on along the way. So, I mean, if you are a weed smoker, then you better stand behind your product. You know what I'm saying? And even if you're like us, we're Moms Who Cannabis, we're standing behind our product. We're not just Moms Who Cannabis and then we're like, you know, okay, my kids don't know I'm smoking, so if you come to my house, we have to smoke outside. No, kids could go to the room if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I am really feeling that, because it's like people are always asking for my advice and how do I do the motherhood thing, and sometimes I forget to mention cannabis, but like that's just not okay, because they need to see how it can be utilized and you can be functional, and it's so versatile, and it's like my secret weapon. It shouldn't be a secret though, you know, but it's like it's the key to all of it. So it's got to be a part of the conversation.
Right.
I feel like people still have the idea that cannabis is just still a recreational thing, and they're not really thinking, or they're not educated enough on its medicinal purposes. So I'd say that's a way that I like to serve the plant, is by telling people what they kind of don't know. It's like, you just can't have this opinion on this plant and not know this, that, and the third.
People are just scared. They judge the unknown.
Yes,
you know?
they judge the unknown. And like we said, just trying to do our best to use our platform to, you know, advocate, talk about our journey, talk about our daily lives and our stories, what we've come across. Somebody who had a checkup, I guess you can say, at my pregnancies with somebody, because I tested positive for marijuana, as opposed to Gabby having like the most blissful experience with her medical provider, didn't ask anything, didn't
it's
question.
All about how you answer sometimes, even that question, but even sometimes it's all about just people judging you.
Yes.
And the thing is that it's true. Do not judge a book by its cover, because look at them. They look in, even in this sense, judging a book by its cover. You don't pick that book up because you're like, I don't know what that book's all about, but I'd rather not because the cover looks whatever. And that's like an outsider looking in on somebody who smokes weed and you know, they only see smokes weed, but they don't see the good mom behind it, the hard worker, the one who has their own business, or they only see the smokes weed. And you're like, well, damn, what if I don't even consume cannabis like that? That's the straight judgmental rock you just threw at me, but I'm going to block it because it's not true. So whatever.
Right.
And that's just the outsider looking in with a judgmental eye. And it's like, if you knew a little better, maybe you judge a little less. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like serving the plant as somebody who can teach somebody about the plant, you're doing your part there, because then they'll probably ease up the next time they see somebody, quote unquote, smoking weed or talking about the plant.
And the people that know the plant, like, this really is the responsibility, I feel like, because even though I'm a trained pharmacist, we didn't really learn about plants. So like the people you would expect you can go to, they don't know. So the people who have the knowledge, the people who have been communicating with the plant, speak up. Because
exactly. Come on, more of the holistic medical assistants. Where y'all at? Don't be afraid to like come show us your magic out there with the plants, right? Like, I'm like, if I can't go to a doctor in the wild and they can't tell me to throw some of this berry on my cut or whatever, or eat this to stay alive, what use is that doctor in the wild with me? You know, so
I feel you.
It's just a plant, y'all.
But another thing that I've realized is that most people who do judge or know not a lot about cannabis, they're the ones that are the most kind of curious.
Right.
You know, so then that goes into us serving the plant, because deep down, you know, you really want to do this, you know, but it's just that fear of judgment.
What's the cannabis question you get asked the most? And then what is your answer?
Well, for me, I'd say my most frequently asked question is how I consume cannabis. So for me, I would say that's ever evolving and changing, because I don't just stick to one way. Obviously, when I was growing up or smoking weed, in my adulthood, it was always joints. Edibles had just sent me down the wrong path way too many times, but now it's completely reversed. I prefer edibles now because I can microdose. I know how much I'm eating as opposed to smoking. Sometimes it still gives me a little bit of anxiety. So I guess you can say it depends on what it is. I definitely have a committed relationship with my CBD.
Yeah.
So that is something that is not ever going to change, part of my daily ritual. But that is always the question I get asked the most is like, what do you do? How do you use it? Sublingual drops, anything. I like it all.
For me, everybody knows I'm a smoker because I'll sit there and now I walk my dog with a joint like a cigarette. And it looks like a cigarette. So as long as I have a joint rolled, nobody's going to say nothing because from afar, it looks like a cigarette. And people don't like cigarette smell already, so they kind of stay away. But then I see the curiosity of people. They come around like, yeah, we know it's weed. I'm all, yeah. So for me, my universal question that I get asked, and it's been since I've been smoking since I was 15, but they still ask me. And especially when this question became popular, because I remember when I didn't even know the difference. And it's, do you like sativa or indica? That's the thing, right? I get it from a pothead. I get it from somebody who don't smoke weed. I get it from somebody who's learning about weed. And for me, I only been a smoker. I'm still a smoker, but I'll do the edibles. I'll do tinctures. I'll do rubs. I'll do THC baths. Like I does it all with it. So I have no judgment in how I consume. And like, I love doing it all. But I always answer that question with, I love sativa because it gets me so like, I'm already a natural hyper person. And then I'm like, oh my God, I feel like Roger Rabbit when I'm high sometimes. He's so hyper. He's like hella fun, you know? And, but then I like that hybrid because it throws in that balance for me. So I just tell them like, whatever you feel like with your personality will do better, go ahead and pick that out, because I always feel like with indica, I'm like a little girl fighting her mom, not trying to go to bed. And indica's always like, time out, go to bed. And I'm like, I can't. I'm thinking
exactly. I feel like if I had to answer that question, like it would come out the same in like layman's terms of like, I'm trying to feel uplifted and like keep going. I don't need to be more tired than I already am.
Okay.
And then like also with the information we have now, getting into the conversation of like, let's talk terpenes. Let's talk not so much like these artificial labels. It's like more complex than that, and really finding out what the goal is for the person who's seeking out cannabis.
Exactly. And honestly, I really like the duo that me and Shana'e have, because you look at me, you think like hippie, extendo joint, cross joint, has the edible tray with the brownies and the cookies, ready for a dab or a bong rip. Like I'm like that, right? And Shanae's over here with her tinctures and very poised with the cannabis. And I'm over here like very Inspector Gadget with the cannabis. And it's so funny because we kind of like balance each other out. Like
we are.
You're such a duo.
Yeah.
Like, such a duo. It's so cute. But I can relate to Shana'e because it was so taboo for me. Like I said this on your podcast, like I didn't really know how to inhale. It was my husband and boyfriend who would like ghost me like the hit, because I just like couldn't wrap my mind around like having to light it and like do the things and the choke. Like it's too much. So thank God that nowadays you can choose your cannabis how you want it in different forms and like get down in the way that you feel comfortable.
It's so funny. I hate choking, and I do it at least once a day because I session like damn near all the time, and it has to be, I can never go without doing a little like,
and that's what bothers me, probably like my anal self. I'm just like, I'm not looking for that dry cough all day, that feeling. I'm like, miss me, just give me what's easy.
My body is,
give me that tincture.
Like, I know, I'm very like, I need to cut everything. I'm still like very pharmacist about it. Like, I need to know.
Yeah, my lungs are very much probably like, there she go again. Hold up, guys, time to get a little strong in there. And I'm like,
planting your power. What resources do you tell people about when they're curious about cannabis? They come around and ask you about it.
Oh, instantly, that MWC, Moms Who Cannabis, all day. I'm like, always shouting out my brand as a resource. But with us creating this platform, I've never known that there's so many pages on Instagram. There's so much social media pages, platforms that I'm always like, oh my gosh, I never knew this was a resource in itself. People having comical pages, inspirational pages, they're making bath salts and this and that all tie in with cannabis. And I'm like, where has this world been all my life? So it's like, really go up on social media and teach yourself something. And if you really want to be old school, go to the dispensary. People, go to the dispensary and pick your bud tender's brain to find your bud or whatever it is you're looking for, and
build those
get some info.
relationships. Yeah.
Right. The thing is, people are treating dispensaries more than, like, it's a club. It's a social club. And if I can't go in there and be like, hey, what kind of weed do you have where it can get me high, not too high, don't want a headache, want to feel like, they'll be like, got the right thing for you. And then they're like, hold up, but how do you want to do it? Like, instead of the sense of get your shit and go, sometimes we be getting that. And I'm like, hold up, like you're treating me like we did such a bad drug deal behind the corner store. I'm tired of it. I came in here to get some damn respect on the plant's name.
Yes.
Man, serious. So it's like, help me out. And people, go in there. If you bored with your life because of COVID, go into your dispensary and just, even if you go get a rub, go get something, but pick, you want to know something? You want pick up. Yeah, go do something because you're bored. Learn about the cannabis plant. Go to
that. Yeah, experiential, because that's half of it, is like the just not knowing what to do with the plant. People aren't even like so,
but they want to judge. But they want to judge.
Touch it, see it, smell it, get into it.
Right. Even if you try it and that time it's not for you, people be talking about it's the gateway drug. No, the thing is that it's a high that comes and goes on how you use it. It's not a high that lasts forever. And the problem is that weed is not a drug, or cannabis is not, it's not even a drug. It's not a plant that you abuse it as a drug, because it's not for you to chase a high. It's for you to use it very mindfully and consciously and use its ways correctly. It's not for you to chase no high. And that's the problem with kids who do it too fast. They're chasing that high on how it feels. And that's why they go to something maybe more greater that may be in around them. And that's why they're so easy in influence and get stuck on it, because they're still chasing a high. And unfortunately, once you're high off cannabis, it's time to go night-night. So be ready for that. Either you consuming sativa or indica, be ready, because what comes up must come down. And it's the best come down of all, highs, but people sometimes aren't stronger in their minds. They're not ready yet because they've abused it and they don't know any better. So that's why it is important to teach, because then that's when those taboos do come up as it's a gateway drug. No, they used it as a gateway. That don't mean that's what it is,
Do you have additional resources, Shana'e?
Yes, I do love this question because it's another one that has more than one. Definitely number one is Moms Who Cannabis.
No.
I do love that we just share our personal connection with the plant. We share our high vibe items. So anything that we feel like other mothers will enjoy, other canna moms, like, hey, you guys might like this. We shout out the brand, whatever it is, and also sharing our cannabis news, because I feel like there's always something to know about this. How are we going to advocate if we don't really know? Right. So we're like, let's get into it more, learn something. So every episode we're learning something new because we're sharing that with the listeners.
That's awesome.
And then obviously Instagram is super awesome, but I do have my two favorite pages that I follow and that I feel like are the most educational would be the High Vibe community. I love what Eunice has going on. She's very conscious when it comes to cannabis, and all of her posts just really hit you where you need it educationally. So I have major respect for that. Everything also is very nice to the eye. I like something that is very visual. You got your little vibe going. I love it. And then there's the Good Strain. Now, the Good Strain I do like is because they talk about cannabis and psilocybin. So learning is mushrooms. So I've been learning a little bit more about that. So those are my 2 plant medicine pages that give me the most informational, you know.
So beautiful.
Which I'm like, where is the cannabis news though? Come on. Like, I feel like we be going online to look for cannabis news.
Yeah, something that I love in my inbox is the Marijuana Moment. Someone puts together a pretty stacked newsletter. I get it every morning at 4:44. And it's like, it's news, you know, it's like the politics of it all, but we got to stay up on that. You know what I mean? We have to make sure that we are aware of how they are trying to control the plant, and where we can step in and be a voice for her or it. So Marijuana Moment's awesome. And then they have like a Patreon where you can get into more of it, but the quick and dirty is in the inbox every morning, Monday through Friday, if you want to check that out.
And then there's a bunch of books that I still feel like I've gotten into. A Woman's Guide to Cannabis. Did not finish it, but that book is really good so far. And then I do want to read Weed Mom by Danielle Simone Brand.
Yeah, there's so much literature out now.
Yeah. Yes. So books definitely love to read.
Even the books that you got me for my baby shower.
Yes, It's a Plant.
Yeah, It's a Plant. They're so informational and so put in a kid's perspective that I love it because it's just so simple. So it like breaks things down where I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And that's another way I feel like is so awesome for other canna moms is like read to your kids, read about it. So if you can there are books out there that are children's books that talk about cannabis. So I feel like that's another like major key when you're teaching your children. Obviously, I have a 2-year-old now, so we're not even on that topic yet. But we do have the It's a Plant book. We have the Stinky Steve's book. So
and
those will be
the leaves, the fan leaves, and like probably can identify it as just something.
Yes, I'm actually growing my first baby, so she's gonna be able to obviously, you know, make the comparison from the books we have to the flower that I'm growing outside. So I'm excited for that.
Okay, so I am repping the shirt today that you all sent. It's one of my favorite t-shirts now. Okay, well, we obviously know Shanae's like all about the aesthetic, so like I get it, but me too. Like it's a tee, but it's so soft and it's so aesthetic. It's like
it is
clean. You know what I mean? Like I'm feeling very cool.
Which one is it? The green one? The forest green? Oh, okay.
It's like yours.
Oh, my favorite t-shirt ever. Like it looks new even through all the washes. And I wash.
It's such beautiful quality. Like people have swag to have swag, and I've had swag to have swag, but like no, this is like an apparel.
Yeah.
Don't Mom Apparel.
Hey.
Hit that link in bio.
Yes, please do. Go get a shirt, rep the plant. Okay, women, thank you for your time today. Is there anything that you want to leave with the listeners?
Just thank you for your time, and you know, check us out, Moms Who Cannabis.
Yes, check out our show. Follow us at Moms Who Cannabis, and just see what's in store with us.
Yeah.
Yes,
we always do giveaways, so that's a cool.
Okay,
thing,
yes.
So.
Follow them on Instagram because the giveaways are so cute. They put them together so perfectly. There's different themes and they're frequent. So follow them on Instagram at Moms Who Cannabis.
Yes. Much love.
Thank you so much for tuning in to 6 Degrees from Cannabis. If you connected with this episode, please share it with a friend who would benefit from hearing it too. Tap the subscribe button to be notified when the next 6 Degrees episode is released. You can find more information about holistic healing, the Follow Your Heart Oracle deck, and what I do by visiting ToriRerick.com. If you message us on Instagram at the 6 Degrees from Cannabis, we'll be sure to message you back. Bliss be with you.